the two people who are chatting to us today are sort of, there are very, very many connections between most of the people in the film and TV music industry, because it is a tiny industry. So if I welcome Becky Bentham, and also full disclosure is that Becky is a wonderful composer agent and is also my composer agent as well. So, and has been for many, many years, which probably displays a deep lack of judgment on her part. But never mind. So Becky as well, obviously Hot House has been a composer agency, but the music supervision that you guys has sort of, it's always been huge, because we first met on Lord of the Rings anyway. But
yeah,
you seem to have had a run over the last few years of doing some of the biggest film musicals that are around. Are you still kind of, are things still happening at the moment in lockdown for you? Are you still managing to do any bits and pieces?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously anything that was shooting or was about to shoot has been pushed, but we've luckily been involved with a few projects which are currently in post, and post has been carrying on either here or in LA. For various reasons that's been possible. And also we're on prep on quite a few projects as well. So the prep periods, I think, are going to extend significantly. And nothing probably going to be shooting now until next year, but we're certainly keeping busy.
Wow. And the next of our two guests joining us today, it's Mr. Lorne Balfe. And if we could ask anybody about sort of like, are things still busy, then your sort of baseline of what busyness means, I think, is sort of is legendary in the industry. So are you finding things like the travel, because you're in the UK right now rather than?
Yeah, I think I am. Yeah. No, there has to be something positive about this whole situation. And I think there's the music side, personal side. Personally, it's getting to be a dad properly.
Wonderful.
You know, we're whether we want to or not, we're all spending more time with our children.
Yeah. How old are your kids, Lorne? You've got a couple of kids?
All these trick questions.
In a range.
I'm not like Boris. 5 and 2.
Oh, bless. Mine are very similar. I've got 3 and 4 months old. So yes, I feel your pain, sir.
but the travel is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Just not. I go back. I travel back to LA once every month probably, and it's kind of legitimately, it's showing people that you don't have to. I think.
Yeah.
It's you know, we're living up with. I don't know. Have you come across a program called Evercast?
Oh yes, yeah.
So Evercast is now, you know, it's just basically running all the time, and it's just, you know, it means that we can be working, and I can have my sequencer open, playing in real time. Music editors can play things back and forth. So it's been, it's not revolutionary because it's been there. It's just now we're actually doing it.
Do you think it will change how things are for you going forward? Do you think, having had a taste of this way of working, what do you think the new normal will look like for you?
I wish it could stay the same.
Yeah.
It won't.
Yeah. No.
I already got invited to go back to a dub in like 2 months' time.
Isn't it interesting, because there's a real sense of...
my mother.
well done, Lorne's mum. We've already had the conversation in previous weeks about the backdrops of everybody's homes. Some people in the slickest of studio environments, some of us with the ever-growing laundry pile in the corner. But Becky, we've been sort of trying in a way, in some of the conversations that we've been having with composers and with all sorts of people in the industry, to look at some of the ways that stopping or certainly slowing down has given us a sort of a different insight into the some of the things that have just been habitual. Like Lorne says, you sort of take it for granted that that's the way it has to be. Have there been any ways of working? Because I mean, Hot House based at Abbey Road, which is, you know, this is like certainly for me, kind of center of the musical universe. But do you think that you're kind of picking up anything that you will learn and sort of take forward when they open the doors again and let you back in again?
Yeah, I mean, for us, having a base at Abbey Road is absolute luxury. So certainly wouldn't want to be giving that up. But, you know, things just as simple as time taken to travel to and from work is extra time you can be spending doing stuff. So it's just sort of, you know, basic practical things like that, I think, you know, it gives you time to consider that you can actually get more work done occasionally when you are working remotely.
Yeah. So there's a kind of an efficiency thing. And I mean, Lorne, the questions that have been coming in when people heard that you were going to be joining us for the chat, there's a range of questions that are around sort of like what drives you into, rather than sort of what lovely car picks you up and takes you to the...
I was going to say, because I don't have a driving license, so I can't actually drive. So that's quite a personal question.
But do you think that, because I mean, you've I mean, I've passed across a few times over the years, and do you think that you had the work drive that you had before working with hands and a remote control? Do you think that's sort of an intrinsic thing, maybe?
No. I know just as many lazy people there than I do. No. I think I've always just been. I think there was a period of time throughout music college where I was extraordinarily lazy, and that's probably why I went to so many of them.
Oh, did you? Which stop it! Really? All the London ones, Glasgow. Where did you go?
Glasgow. I was only part time there. I think. Trinity, Royal Academy, Royal College. It's nothing to be proud of. But I think it is a bit funny. But the problem is that I just was not. It was not for me. I couldn't. Yeah. I was an academic, and I'm dyslexic, and I was doing commercials, and I think the conservatoires were very only interested in if you could make a piece of music out of a hollow piano and a twig.
Yeah.
You know, it was just tunes were the antichrist. So, but the workload thing, I don't know. You see, I don't think I do that much.
Right.
And I think that, but then that's like somebody saying it's not me, it's you. I just think there's always nowadays the timetables on everything is just so messed up.
Yeah.
You start on an animation, there goes a year, but there's nothing to do for a big window.
Yeah.
I started a video game that won't come out for another 2 years. So you know, I can't just purely be doing that, and then and also I just think I really enjoy until I got married and then had a family. I was 10 times worse. I did work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And never did holidays, but I enjoyed it. And now I still feel guilty on holiday. There is always a little portable rig, like every other composer. This little rig just gets packed up.
It's just the extra suitcase on the luggage. It's like, what is in that? Don't ask, love. It's fine. It's just...
That's the thing I always love. I love when composers go on holiday on Facebook and it's always just like a lovely view with the screen. But the portable rigs are getting bigger and bigger, and I think now I started getting detachable screens.
Oh yes.
So then I had to get quick keys shortcut on the iPad. So that arrived, and you might as well just get a caravan.
I have seen online that people have converted lovely VW campers and put studios in. I'm super into that. I would buy one of those in the drop of a hat, but
that view is BC. I've never had I don't really. The one thing interesting about your show is also seeing people's studios.
Yeah.
Because I don't have mine. Mine has always been in a bedroom. And I'm finally being a big boy and getting a studio design. And the one thing they were saying was, do you want, we'll have these glass windows. Yeah. And I thought, no. Nice and dark. We want it pitch black.
Is that the casino approach? No clocks on the wall.
No clocks. And just nice blackness. But the turnover thing is to me, it's just, I think my brain was always like that, and unfortunately I think it is now just if I can't nail the theme on this project, I can have a break and try to nail it on the other one.
Yeah, keep some balance. It's really interesting, Becky, with your agent hat on for a minute. I think there's sort of one of the things that, again, drawing some threads between all these different conversations, is that it feels like they're either we as composers choose to build a story around ourselves, or other people will build one around us, sometimes whether we like it or not. And I'm seeing all kinds of composers and how they're booked for different projects. Do you think for the younger composers that are joining us on the chat, that trying to sort of like have a narrative that's around you is something that's useful, or would you say just do the work, just have work on what comes to you?
Probably a little bit of both, to be honest. I think some people fare better by just using the work and doing a good job, and others are sort of more all-rounders, where they have there's a bit of a package that makes up the successful composer, and the story can be part of that. So I think it really does depend on the composer to a certain extent and what works for them.
So is it in a way that kind of, I mean, it always feels that when there's a real authentic connection between actually what someone is and then the kind of the impression that you're left with on social media or in the interviews, when those kind of hang true, it always feels like that's much easier to sustain. But then I think those of us who've come through the ranks, there's definitely a point at which you just there's no clear sense of your voice, as a lot of people talk about. You're just kind of like handy at doing everything, and I kind of quite a few people have been talking about how individual voices are more sought after by producers or by filmmakers at the moment. Is that holding true?
Yeah. I mean, definitely having an individual musical voice, so that you become the person people go for that particular genre, enables a reasonable amount of success. But authenticity is key at all times. So it's sort of making sure it's authentically what your thing is, and not trying to sell yourself as something that sounds good but may not be your exact specialism.
I hear, Lorne, did you sort of, I mean,
don't ask me that question. The thing, like, you've done your own individual work, Michael. You released Not Connected. So that's something I know I couldn't do. I don't know what, and Attlee started doing it, and it's an interesting thing to do. I just know I couldn't do it because I don't know what. I'm still trying to figure out. Maybe it's not a good thing to say, but I'm still trying to figure out, and I'm still learning. And I don't quite know what that. I think that's why I'll jump around and try to do an action movie and then do an animation, so I can just try to keep figuring it out, because there's but how do you gosh, you look at people like John Lunn, I think is amazing. But yet when you talk to him, he kind of sometimes, I don't think he realizes how great he is.
Yes, but I think I mean, having talked to John on this and talked to him in bars, we also, me and John, if there's an airport bar to be found in, then I will find him in the airport bar on the way to and from somewhere, and we'll drink too much and tell all the stories. But he was very kind of he's very open about saying that he wouldn't, if he was going to do an album of his own music, he wouldn't know quite what it is. And I mean, I found absolutely, as definitely as somebody who's being a composer assistant and a music editor and all these different sort of jobs where you pull your own ego out of the equation as much as possible. It's about the job, and it's about doing the job to the best of your ability with a smile on your face. And it took me that I still feel those crunchy gear changes between doing my own stuff as an artist and then getting back into the zone where it's kind of let's do 12 different themes, and then none of those are fine, so let's do a half dozen more. And I think it's sort of, I think there's sometimes a bit of grass is greener as well, because
you touched on that with David and Daniel about the concept of artist. I think it's just two different jobs. I remember once saying, I had said to somebody, well, I feel it's yes, you're being artistic, but it is a job.
Yeah.
And you have got a lot of bosses that have all got their points of view, and you could be doing an 18th century war film in America, and the main instrument is trumpet. One of the producers hates trumpet. It's gone. It's gone. And there's snare drums. Nah, you can't have them. I hate it. But they're gone.
Yeah.
But then some of my friends that are composers will be a bit more. They'd rather walk off the gig.
Yeah.
Than have that stipulated on them. So it's what Becky's saying. Yes, you've got to figure out what camp you're in. And I think I'm just in a bit of, I dip into all of the camps.
I'm going to come back to you in a minute and ask you about his Dark Materials, because I think, and it's just my opinion, but I think that one kind of registered with you more than some of the other projects that I've seen you do. Not that you're implying
it wasn't shit.
On a scale of 1 to shit.
There was an effort put into it.
And of course, the terrifying thing is that the kind of, as earlier alluded to, how small the industry is. That like one of the editors on his Dark Materials is my best friend, and they always sort of and I'll come back to Becky on this as well, because it applies to agents and music supervisors so much. I think that there is a very real sense, either amongst perhaps younger composers who are trying to break in, or around producers and people who are dealing with music, that they don't quite register that everybody knows each other, and that that everybody talks to each other all the time. So, I mean, Becky, you're often left sort of in a position where, I mean, you're in an interesting position as a music supervisor, where you'll be sort of sometimes involved in the composer choice or composer suggestion, but very often, if you're music supervising, there'll be other agents in the mix with other composers that might be coming on board. It's what would you sort of suggest to the younger composers to navigate these choppy waters? Is it worth trying to make friends with agents and music supervisors, or just kind of like wait for them to make friends with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very small world. So with everything you do, it's really key to maintain your relationships. So just sort of having the opportunity to work with somebody or meet with someone that could be useful in the future, it's really key to sort of nurture those relationships and, you know, keep in touch with people moving forward, because inevitably you're going to come across them on another project. So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's the idea that I mean, Lorne, the elephant in the room that you're memed in terms of. I don't have to be very careful when there are other people moving behind. If you refer to them as an elephant, that's like deeply disrespectful. I apologise to your mother. That wasn't what I meant. But
the hallway here.
That's right. But the idea that that you would be on a what is a very short list of people that you can call at the last minute who've got the chops really to pick up gigs when for one reason or another it's gone wrong. And you know, and I've been in on both sides of that situation, been cheerfully fired off a bunch of stuff, but also sort of reasonably quick enough to come in and pick up where other people have been let go. And that we all know who got let go, and we all know who came in to do it. Is it something that you are sort of like actively
looking
for? Yes, I love it. I love replacing other people's music.
But I think there is a bit that's fascinating, because I remember working for Michael Kamen like 1,000 years ago, and we got the call to do What Dreams May Come, that Ennio Morricone had got fired off. So you're not gonna. I know. And the score, he recorded the whole score, and apparently it's absolutely beautiful. And it was a really difficult sort of combination of, we had 3 weeks, and Ennio Morricone had just been fired. So in many senses, you're sort of grieving for what would clearly be a much better score.
Did you hear it?
No, not until later. I've heard some of it later online, because it's floating around, and it's amazing, but totally different.
It probably appeared in another movie.
Yeah, yes, exactly. It's just cut and paste. Quentin Tarantino movie. And but there is an excitement about somebody saying, right, there you go, you got 3 weeks. There's sort of an adrenaline rush, and there's a particular
planet you're on. You think that's exciting?
I did when I was 30. I don't anymore.
I think it's I do get brought in to do it. Sometimes there's a slight, bridesmaid feeling regarding it.
Yeah, I hear you.
You can't be joyous about it, but I think it's just I'm always when that does happen, I'm always the first to try to salvage what's there.
I see.
Because I don't. It's either miscommunication between the director and the composer. They're not talking any longer.
Yeah,
it happens a lot.
Yeah.
There's just been it's dialogue has stopped somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't spend 6 months of your life kind of doing something, and then all of a sudden this is just not right.
Yeah.
So that's 9 times of why it's happened. Also, a lot of the times because the composer's just refusing to budge or move, or it just is adamant that it's like this is what it is.
Yeah.
And to me, if I get told somebody doesn't like it, well, I can't fight them.
Yeah.
It's not hitting you, so I can't. So, but also I think it's just it is writing the music, but I think it's also the business side of it.
Yeah.
You're able to kind of step back and know that if you've got 3 weeks, 1 week, you've lost 1 week recording.
Yeah, totally.
And mixing. So it's but no, I can't say I enjoy it. You're obviously sicker than me if you get enjoy it. But it's a deadline. You know, it's a deadline. Yeah. That's the only good thing about it, is that it's a deadline, and that you're able to sit there and the pressure is, yes, you've got to write that theme for tomorrow.
Yeah. Because
if you don't, you're behind schedule, and yeah, you know, how do you, like, TV themes, I think are the hardest things.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to become the you know, the IP or that stamp for that show.
But I love personally that you certainly everything that I've seen and heard that you, because I love TV and film equally, and albums and the whole thing. You know, I'm kind of very agnostic. Don't really put a kind of value judgment on it, because I think you can do all of them well. Sometimes
you love your laundry from the look of it. the way it's building up every week, you love it.
But like by week, I'm going to put like an animal over here, or just see if it can actually get it to reach the ceiling.
At least it's clean.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Well, it doesn't move. That's why it just sits there. It's got dust on top. It needs a Swiffer. You should Swiffer.
Yeah.
But I love that you love that. Oh, certainly, you know, appear to, don't put words in your mouth, that you love TV as well. Because I think it's a very, and not even just the sort of, you know, there's a lot of talk about a golden age of telly now, and with streamers and with big budget stuff. But I think that there's a sort of the bits of telly that I've been involved with are the sort of, they're the things that resonate with other people in my life as well. I can remember once, I don't know, Becky, whether you remember this back in the day, but there was a call round for people to re-record the Coronation Street theme, and which is right. Like dear Lord above, that's a poison chalice. But that was when my grandparents were still alive. That was the only thing I told them that I was going to do. That meant something to them, because they didn't go to the movies. And it was just like, are you going to write the music for Coronation Street? Clearly not. But there's something sort of personal about it, which even those huge blockbusters that Lorne, that you're involved with, that they're amazing, but they're differently amazing. And on just sort of touching back on His Dark Materials, was that one that you were super keen on, or is that just sort of, was that just my, I thought you did a brilliant job, actually.
No, it was a job that wasn't going to go my way. And then I went for it.
Yeah.
I knew the books. I loved the books.
Yeah.
And I went for it. The thing is that I find it's hard for me to do TV.
Yeah.
Because I think you get bracketed, and then you get, oh well, you're doing films with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're not going to be able to, you can't emotionally do something, or, you know, there's a stigma. So I went for that show hard, and I met them all, and Jane and Dan, and I pitched. I don't. They didn't ask to pitch. I don't know if they were looking for people to pitch. I think I found out afterwards they were. But after I met them, I kind of just thought, well, what am I meant to do? Just have another phone conversation?
Yeah.
I just thought it was pointless. So I just went and wrote a lot of music for the characters, because I loved the books.
Yeah.
So I sent it to them, and then they got another composer. They fired him, then they got me. Joke. No, I didn't again. No, serious. But no, I yeah, it was the same as with Mission Impossible. I knew that to kind of get to the next stage in the project, I had to write.
Yeah.
Talking was only going to take you so far, and you know, instead of kind of just doing another breakfast meeting, I wanted to kind of present and write musical ideas, and which I do. You know, I think some people have problems with pitching or submitting ideas. I don't. If you want that job,
Yeah.
and you think you can bring something to it, you just got to go for it.
Becky, are you, having seen the inside of the process where composers are picked, both from the sort of music supervisor and agent point of view, is there any sort of insights that come from that? I mean, obviously Lorne's talking about pitching, and even someone at his high status is still open to pitching.
I think Lorne's absolutely right that you need to be willing to pitch, and obviously it's sort of a combination of getting in the room and bringing everybody on side in the first instance, and then showing how interested and passionate you are about the project by going away and investing some time. If you tick both those boxes, then, why say no? It's assuming the material you're delivering is along the right lines, you're sort of got best chance of getting on the shortlist. So it's kind of, a bit of both, winning them over in the room and then being prepared to go the extra mile with pitching.
I was seeing recently, I'm hearing more and more stories now of composers booking orchestras and presenting their pieces. That you've got to have money. That costs a lot of money.
Yeah, that's quite scary, isn't it?
But last year there was 2 big movies, and I think one of them's openly talked about it. I don't know, so I'm not going to ruin it. They filmed it to make it kind of a statement piece, and had the orchestra play the themes, and they got the job. I've heard of it. I've heard of people getting orchestras before and never getting the job.
It's a big gamble. Stones of steel. Becky, do you if you had a sort of a top 3 of what does tip that decision, do you think it is the music, is it the personal connection, or is it reputation, or anything else?
Certainly on some of the bigger films, it can be somebody that ticks the boxes with both with the film studio along with the producers and the director. So, you find occasionally that a director might have a really strong idea of who they want to hire, but the producers, and more often the studios, aren't buying it for a certain reason. So it kind of depends on the level of the project. There are other projects where it might be sort of an independent movie, or a smaller TV project where the director's choice is everything. But I think on the bigger projects, you have to tick the box for a body of people, not just the director. So that can be challenging sometimes.
I see. And Lorne, is that sort of that kind of combination of obviously I don't think, how old were you, if you don't mind me asking? So many personal questions today. How old were you when you started at Remote Control? Was it Remote Control then, or was it Media Ventures?
20. Well, I think I first went there. The reason I went there was because I think the final blow was Trinity, I think, and then
number 5.
I mean, there was, but I had been doing a lot of commercials. Films weren't really the focus, and Hans and John Powell had a company, and that's why I went over there as an intern. So that was kind of the thing. So maybe 20 years ago.
It's terrifying. And do you think, because I know, I mean, Becky sort of articulated it really well. I think that the sort of double decision, at least double, where artistically the director, if it's a film, will be very interested, and the producers are looking for a safe pair of hands as well. They want to make sure it's going to get done and that it's going to not go off the rails. Do you think that your association with Hans and all that time in the trenches secures that side of the thought process for people when they're thinking about you?
Yes and no.
Interesting.
I think that I think that it can be a positive and a negative. I think that there's people that like that regime and people that don't. And I think that the thing that I never got my head around is that the fact that it's like the concept of additional writers.
Yeah.
Well,
is
this part two? Is this part two?
No. I just waiting for the chat. I'm just waiting for the chat room to explode. If we still, as we rightly talk about it.
The thing is that the camp. Okay, the camps are, some of the producers don't like the background that I come from because they say that it's like people do all the work and they're so, you know, but the problem is the other camp simply just don't talk about those people.
Yeah.
Those composers, they're just not doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
And we all know that I've had it where I've had those phone calls and I've been given NDAs to sign, rewrite a couple of reels and being told, you know, we just don't want. So it's a weird one because it doesn't make sense. But the business side, yes, I think the fact that I was very privileged to learn that regime. A regime makes it sound a bit fascist.
Choosing your words carefully today.
That structure, and kind of, and then it's like all of us. You can not assist composers and get a career very, very successfully, and you can assist composers, and the majority don't get anything out of it.
That's interesting because
it's not the golden ticket.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a perception of if there is a conveyor belt of sort of like conveyor belt to glory, then it consists of sort of getting a job as an intern, writing additional music for. There's probably like a secret list on the internet of a dozen composers who've got sort of like big facilities, and that guarantees that in 10, 15 years time you'll be doing the big movies. From your experience, it's very much a sort of exception rather than the rule.
Look, Becky will know the statistics far greater than I.
Yeah.
If I look at all of the composer friends of mine and their teams around them, then the percentage is very small of who's going to break away. And you came from a great stable.
Yeah.
And and it happens sometimes, and then but then how many didn't get the break, or how many didn't something just didn't click, or there's no logic to it. But then Becky will get the amount of people I'm sure that contact you saying I worked on this movie.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's back to the package again then of having like the toolbox of different skills that actually create the success. So, you kind of work for somebody very prestigious and been given opportunities, but maybe, you don't have the sort of other skills that filmmakers are looking for. So maybe, you walk in the room and it's not as easy to win people over. Although you're perfectly skilled at doing the work and at the craft, it's having sort of the other assets that are equally as important to create the success, and that's really hard.
Yeah, you can't teach. I think it's different than us being like if we were songwriters, be really good songwriters, and that's it.
Yeah.
But we have to interact with the clients and
manage the politics and as well as writing the music, and there's a whole sort of raft of assets that individual needs in order to be successful and to get them the next job on the back of it.
Yes, because look, I've seen it enough times. Friends get a big film, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean the same as it used to, I think, now, because the content, so much content. Everybody, probably the majority of the people in this group have got a show on Netflix or Amazon.
They've all got all my jobs.
But the concept of your IMDb listing now is ridiculous. It's like
yeah. Yours definitely is. I'm gonna change tack slightly, and this, Lorne, is a slightly leading one for you, and so I'm gonna ask it to Becky first, which is
everything's negative when you say Lorne. It's like
and so this is about what's your favorite place to record and why. So that includes countries and studios and people. Just because we've had a bunch of conversations, it's gonna be weird for a long time. I think everybody's trying to work out ways to do social distancing, distanced recording, and it's going to be crazy. But there are places already starting to open up. And have you had sort of is London your favourite because you're based at Abbey Road and so you can just pad down in your slippers, or how about LA
Abbey Road and obviously, but
it's hay fever season.
Yeah, exactly. Abbey Road and Air, yeah, definitely. But I always enjoy recording abroad as well. I've been lucky enough to record in Stockholm a couple of times. That's been great fun.
Oh, yeah. On Mamma Mia, was that?
Yeah, and first time round in an external studio there, and then in Benny Anderson's studio for the second film.
Oh, really?
And that was great fun. It's just always a good experience, wherever you're recording. But yeah, that was loads of fun.
And Lorne, the reason for this leading remark was
I know what camp you're in anyway.
It's one of those things that wherever you've pledged allegiance to, the other party will just go, there'll be a little raised eyebrow.
It depends on, one party puts your posters up and the other one doesn't.
Yes, exactly. Just when you're there, just for the day, just shift.
I think with the last movie, we just did a movie at Abbey Road the week before shutdown.
Wow. Okay.
I think we were the last.
Oh, were you doing that with Pete and Kirsty? Is that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. We're not saying which one.
Yeah.
Only because there's plenty of time to get me replaced. But it was right for that sound.
Yeah.
It was just right. I was spoilt when I started working for Hans, being at Air, hearing Air, then getting a great relationship with Jet Foster.
Yeah.
You became a great work colleague, but a great friend. So I think that's the other thing. You start on this journey where you start kind of building a team.
Yeah.
And I think that was, so the majority of everything I've done is Air, but then Abbey Road, I'd like to think it depends on the project. The other thing is depends on availability.
Yeah. Oh, very much.
The studios have been so busy, and do a lot in Vienna now.
Interesting. And what did you make of that? Any good?
Yeah, we started off doing, I think maybe the first was the Crown, so I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
One, I think. But it's great players, and it's a difficult one because you feel bad then the next time you go and do a session in LA, those guys are going to be, you don't think we're good, do you?
Yeah.
But it's different. It's just different sounds. It's different attitudes, and I think like last year when I did Bad Boys, I knew that it had to be done. It sonically had to be done in LA.
I see. Yeah.
totally different sound, but it's
different taste depending on which project you're working on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Becky, in terms of sort of supervision, you see a lot of the budgets coming across your desk. Are you sort of is anybody putting together budgets and ideas for how they might do sort of socially distanced stuff, or have you got your eyes on places that are opening up earlier rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are asking what the alternatives are. So I think people are keen to know, and certainly, the remote recording list of musicians that we've got here in London is brilliant, and possibly suited to some projects more than others, and some composers more than others. Certain people will feel that for their particular project and what they're writing, you can't replace being in the room with the group of people, and on other things, smaller lineups and things that are stylistically appropriate, the remote recording setup can work really well. So I think people are interested to know what the alternatives might be, but by the same token, desperately keen to get back to where we were to a certain extent.
We just did something 2 days ago with an Apple commercial. We did everybody, I think 20 people maybe remotely. Wow!
Did somebody mix it for you out there? Did you sort of pull it all in the box and sort of fiddle with it yourself?
The tricky thing is that I think the difficult thing with it is because you can't do everybody at the same time. Yeah. So that brings those. One person plays one wrong note, or questions it, and then the others don't do it. So you've got that, and then dynamics. One person will be maybe playing it louder, and then you hear it and go, oh, I need it quiet. So it's never gonna. But then, mutual friend Peter Gregson. I've been remotely recording him for about 6 years. He's an amazing musician, and I don't have to deal with him in a room. It's great.
But I'll tell you what, I usually have to, because I've been on tour with Peter.
That's a joke. It's a joke, by the way. It's a dry joke. And he's Scottish, so he's brilliant.
He's very Scottish. So as Lorne definitely knows, because Peter and I have sort of toured as a piano and cello duo and
Chuckle Brothers.
Chuckle Brothers, exactly. We do. It's mostly stand up with a tiny bit of music in between. That whenever, basically, if I go to Peter's hotel room and say, "Do you want to come knock on the door?" Go, "Do you want to come down and have a drink in the bar?" He's always playing, and it's always for Lorne. It's just like he does beautifully. I've got one final question, because we'll try and wind up roughly on the hour, because I'm incredibly grateful for both of your time. But it's an interesting one, actually. It's the question's from Charles Gaskell, and Lorne. It's sort of, I'm expanding it out into a broader social media and on what we do to connect with people sort of question. Because he says you've been very generous recently, clearly, obviously buttering you up or something, in sharing your scores for various cues for his start materials. He'd got a specific question about the rights of using them later on, and it is a sort of a thorny subject about who has the rights for the stuff. But are you finding that you're starting to develop a slightly different relationship with the people who are interested in the music for the projects that we do? I mean, I think it's great that you're sharing those scores. I've been nicking that idea for a while.
Well, good. I think to me, I just think that it's a horrible situation that people are in. Yeah. And people were gonna just get bored out of their heads. And I think that I thought the most important thing I thought was just giving the MIDI files away, so that people kind of look at things, because and not necessarily. And that's why I think I always used the phrase. I said, you can learn from it or laugh at it, whatever you want to do. just get something out of it, at least. But I think you can we're in a different time than we were when we were starting out, because that was about gear, equipment, and that costs money. And now composers sitting in their bedrooms are using the same sounds as. Well, I was going to say me. My studio is in a bedroom. But we've all got the excuses have gone now.
Yeah,
you can't blame your tools. And it's making it harder because there's just so much more out there to be using. So I just think it's just I thought, well, it's good for people to kind of be able to analyze it and see it and not necessarily just use those excuses, but it's and also they were about to restart showing repeat the so they were about to start showing season 1 again. So yes, there's a percentage of I'm very keen to try to kind of help, because I got help. And
me too.
I just think it's in our interest to try to help the next generations, and it's the same way as when we're doing sessions. I always try to get students to come, because it's weird. I remember last year somebody saying, we did a piano session, and I overheard him. He said, "God, I didn't think a piano could sound so good." And I thought that's what a 25-year-old, because we're getting so focused on the quality of samples. We've got to kind of keep, and budgets are getting smaller, but we've got to keep this how amazing it is when live music happens. So anything that we can do to try to, and also I think we started giving like the stems. Because somebody can sit there and just play with it and learn from it. So a bit of charitable work. How about that?
That's great.
But Becky, I think you, we've talked before about with Hothouse and social media and the way that everybody communicates. I think it feels like there is a sort of, there's a kind of business to business side of what goes on, which doesn't really need any communication apart from with the person that you're dealing with, whoever the producer is. But also it feels like for most composers now, and for music agencies, everybody in the music chain, that there's certainly an option to be more open now, and that people who enjoy the shows, I don't want to say expect that, but certainly appreciative of it when it happens.
Yeah, do you mean sharing materials?
Yeah, I think it's possibly about either sharing materials or just sharing your own sort of personal and not necessarily corporate communications. So,
just making people that much more accessible, whether it's that they are physically is a different thing, but it's making, I guess, for people starting out, just making the human aspect of it all a bit more obvious, and that everybody, like these conversations, for example, that you've been doing have sort of enabled just people starting out to see that everybody sort of suffers the same challenges
the same
at different levels, but certainly, I think it's all really healthy and encouraging to do that.
I have to agree with Becky. I think, Michael, what you've done, not to turn this into a BAFTA evening here, but what you have done, though, is I think it's just so important, and it's as if like this was the right time for it to happen, because it's not a kind of you're letting people have the ability to feel that they can do it.
Absolutely.
It's normalizing these situations, because I think it's a long ladder, this job. And I think some people get put down. They get worried about this, and what you've done with this show. I know that you can't keep doing it. Maybe just once every couple of months or something. Because
like a Christmas special. And just
I personally, I've been following it. I think it's 10 times more influential and 10 times more interesting and important to people than going and doing a 3-year course, you know, studying film music. I think it's just, I'm not a fan. I don't believe in these postgrad courses. I think it's a waste of time. But what you're doing is just making people understand that there is no clear path. Everybody's got the same. Everybody's going to have a different journey. But you've done an amazing job. So congratulations.
Checks in the post later. I've got to do some work at some point. It's pathetic how little work I'm doing right now. Maybe not. I'll just do this all the time. It'd be brilliant.
I was going to say, I know some social influencers that are earning like $500,000 a year.
I definitely should be doing some product placement. Next time it won't be laundry. There'll be, you know, some like actually, I should just wheel it. Today I'm mostly drinking Evian. I could genuinely, I love you both very much, and I could chat like this forever and ever, but I respect both of your time too much to do that. But thank you hugely for joining us. It is quite moving, and for everybody who's been in the chat room. So we read it when somebody else is talking. So we really appreciate everybody.
I replied once. I wrote.
There we go.
Black is the new black.
That's a nice little proper reply. I'm just going to come round to you each for a physical gesture of goodbye. Feel free to choose your own. Becky, thanks so much for joining us. It's been lovely. Thank you very much. And
see you later.
Bye-bye, Mr. Lorne Balfe. Just mate, lots of love to you. You're amazing. I think you're brilliant.
It's my gesture.
That was lovely. It's sort of like an Italian restaurateur saying, "Come back to us." Thank you so much for joining us. There won't be one next week. You'll have to catch up on YouTube and watch some other great episodes that Lorne actually mentioned. And then after that, there'll be 3 more in theory, unless I don't get any work, in which case I'll be doing this forever and ever.
Just so I know, Michael, just tell me what project you're working on at the moment.
Nobody phone Lorne. No. Thank you so much, everybody. See you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.